From Anshei Sphard-Beth Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Bhaalotecha, making enemies. If we look at the parsha of Bhaalotecha, it's an interesting parallelism between Bhaalotecha and parsha of Yitro. And this parallelism is pointed out by Rabbi Yonatan Grossman of Yeshivat Har Etzion and Lachon Herzog. He says, look what happened before Mount Sinai, before we got the Torah. In the Parshat Beshalach, Amalek came to attack, our greatest enemy, our arch enemy. Then, contrary to the outsiders being a problem, Yitro, also an outsider, comes in and he embraces the Torah and God and Judaism, and he gives advice. And then we get the Torah at Mount Sinai, chapter 19, chapter 20 of Exodus. Then, return to our parsha, Parshat Bhaalotecha. Here, we're not going to Sinai, we're leaving Sinai. It's sort of the other end of the Sinai experience, not going into Sinai, but getting out of Sinai, leaving the Har Hashem. By Yisumi Har Hashem, they're leaving the mountain of God. Here we're told how it works. A cloud of glory will go in front of them, they'll blow the trumpets, and it will be a sign for the moving forward. And what happens? We also find Yitro, Chovav. Maybe it's Moshe's brother-in-law. Maybe it's Yitro again. Let's assume, like Rashi, it's Yitro. So there's Yitro again. And he is asked, please stay with us. Vayita lanu le'einayim, you'll be our guide. It'll be good for you too. Then, we're not sure if he stays or he doesn't stay. Doesn't say. Very strange. As Rabbi Yonatan Grossman asked, if we're not going to find out if Yitro stayed, then why have the story? And then we have Vayibin Aaron, and then we have a prayer as we begin to march forward toward the land of Israel. We have a prayer that may God make all the enemies scatter. May all your enemies scatter in front of the ark, in front of the coming of God and His people, marching forward with the tabernacle at its center. May all the enemies scatter. So we have the same parallel. We have enemies, we have Yitro, we have Sinai, leaving Sinai, going to Sinai. Both cases, same parallel. Now, if you go back to one of our previous videos, the Yitro, the human foundations, there you'll discover that we discussed two possible ways of associating Yitro with Sinai. Is it that before Sinai, we needed advice? So we went to Yitro. Yitro came to us and he gave Moshe wonderful advice about administration of the Jewish people. So, but once they got the Torah, we don't need his advice anymore. This is the last moment before we got the Torah, we need advice. Once we got the Torah, that kind of advice from the nations of the world is not to be sought anymore. That's sort of a conservative way of looking at it. However, another way of looking at it is the opposite. That even though they're getting the Torah, we still want the advice. Rashi says that actually this story takes place after Mount Sinai, so after they got the Torah. So even after they got the Torah, we're still taking advice from the nations of the world. When there's wisdom, Chochmah Bagoyim, Tamin, when there's wisdom among the nations, take it. So that's a possible explanation there. Here too, we have two ways of looking at the Yitro or Chovav story. One way of looking at it is that it looks like he didn't come. Moshe's arguing, please come with us, it'll be good for you. No, I don't want to come, I want to go home. So, but please, we need you to help us in the desert. No response. Presumably, he's stuck with his guns and he didn't stay with us. Maybe later he went to Israel, or the Keni, later on, maybe he did somehow make it to Israel, but he didn't come with us. According to that, even though he didn't come, we still wanted him. We wanted him to give advice, because advice is good. Even after Sinai, we wanted his advice. And maybe he did come with us. That would even strengthen him further. Shows that he had to come with us. He insisted that he come with us. And because we needed him, even with the clouds of glory, even with the miraculous guidance of the Jews in the desert, it's not enough. You always have human endeavor, human effort. With the cloud, you also want to have a guide in the desert. Second view is that this is terrible. This is a terrible sin. This parsha is filled with the downfall of the Jewish people. And usually we say the downfall starts after the upside down noons, after Vayi ben Soah. But it's been argued that Vayisu me'ar Hashem, that when they went away from the mountain, they ran like children, like who were running away from school, that the negativity begins at that verse, and even in the previous verse, asking a Gentile to stay with us because he will be our eyes. When we had God as our eyes, it's a terrible sin. The Chassam Sofer, for instance, said that this was the beginning of the whole downfall. The Lashon Hara with Miriam, everything we did wrong, the complaining, it all starts here. It's a terrible sin to say that he will be our eyes in the desert when we had God leading us through Lanchotam HaDerech, leading us, guiding us through the desert. In other words, we have then two versions once again as to whether we need Chovav or we don't need Chovav. We need the Gentiles or we don't need the Gentiles for advice. If we say that Moshe was perfectly just in asking for human help along with the divine guidance, and we say, surely, we need divine help even after Sinai. Or do we say this is a terrible sin, that when we have divine guidance, we have a Torah, we have clouds, we have miracles, we have protection of God, divine providence, we don't need Jethro, Chovav, or anyone else to guide us through things. Two views. But what about the juxtaposition to Amalek? The juxtaposition here to the enemies that we pray that they go away. So I believe Rabbi Yonatan Gosman said this, something to this effect. I think it's very, very important and very true. And that is, when you don't have a point, no one needs to argue. When you're not about anything particular, you don't really offend anyone. But when the Jewish people coalesce around Mount Sinai, around God, around the clouds of glory, around the idea of divinity, around the revelation at Sinai, around the Torah, that's a little different. Now suddenly we have a purpose, a goal, a mission. And when you have a purpose, a goal, and a mission, you will have enemies. It's unfortunate. But when you take a stand for the good, the evil forces will come forward. You march forward with that Torah, you can guarantee it. There will be those who will be marching against it. People who are not interested in the strictures, in having guidance, having a way of life, having discipline in life. It's scary for those who are not familiar with it. They want total freedom, which of course we can never achieve. Well, there's no such thing as total freedom. We all live within certain moral strictures, moral confines. That's the way life is. People like to imagine that somehow if we could get rid of the Jews, get rid of the Torah, get rid of God, we could just be free. We'll be free from all shackles. But there's a human bondage that's undeniable, and there's no way to escape it. And therefore, the more we coalesce around Mount Sinai, the more we follow the cloud of glory, we follow the ark of God, the more we're all surrounding the tabernacle, marching forward with Torah and God at our center, the more we have to worry that those who seek so-called freedom, those who wish to shirk off the not just the Jews. It's not about the Jews. They want to shirk off all responsibility, the yoke of heaven, the yoke of really being human. They're always going to be at the gates, ready to attack, ready to come after us. This is the sad fact. But all we do is we pray. We pray, God, as we march forward with our thinking, forward with our commitment to God, ask, please, it's a difficult challenge to be the Jewish people representing God, representing the Torah, representing morality. There will be those who will try to utterly erase us from the face of the earth because they just can't stand the notion of human bondage, of human responsibility. But we pray to God, please, we will coalesce around you and your causes. Try to do your will. Please, let us be able to do so. Be able to march forward into the future. Without Amalek, without the enemies, may the enemies scatter before you. Thank you for joining us here for our discussion of Parshat Bhaalotecha. Join us each week for a discussion of Parsha and the various holidays, how-to videos as well. Thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer. Thank you.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit asb.org.